Hello and welcome back to the channel again. This is Sam trying to spin to win on Zwift. It's an exciting day. ZRL is back. Yes sir. Today is stage 1 of season 3, a team time trial on the Wasted 8 course in Watopia. Now, I'm usually not a fan of time trialing in any way, shape or form. It's not my strength as a rider. However, I'm looking forward to this one. And hopefully,
it's going to be fun!
Before we jump into the race footage, I wanted to give you a quick update on a couple of things. First, I briefly wanted to go over the course that we're gonna face today. Second, I wanted to introduce you to the Swedish Zwifters Mimir team that will be racing in this season of ZRL. And finally, I wanted to have a quick look at the competition that we're facing today, but also more generally throughout this season 3, because there's been a few updates and I'll get to those in a second.
Get on with it!
Moving on quickly then. I think the Wasted 8 course is a good selection for a team time trial. It's relatively flat, around 140 meters or so of elevation over almost 31 kilometers, but there are a few bumps along the way, so you need to make sure you have good team coordination to be able to maintain your speed. Now, the biggest obstacle, and it's not that big, is the Jarvis Reverse. This is a pretty draftable climb, really split up into 2 sections. So it's flat, really steep, flat, and then really steep. So coordination before, during, and after that section will be key to make sure your team climb well and keep your momentum as you get over that obstacle. All in all, I think the Wasted 8 is a good course, and I think it should take us some 40 to 45 minutes to complete it.
Commander, would you introduce us to your team?
Well, I'm certainly no commander, but I did want to introduce you to the new look Swedish Zwifters Mimir team. First, I should mention that we're now competing in the Western East Division B2. That means that we actually got downgraded, I believe, from B1, where we competed for the last 2 seasons, and I think we finished 9th, 10th or 11th in each one of those 2. So it's fair that we got a downgrade, but hopefully that means we can be more competitive this time around. And due to some changes in personnel, I think we actually have a stronger team than we've done for the last 2 seasons.
Oh, really?
You can see our team on the screen now. There's actually 8 of us, so we'll probably each do 4 or 5 races throughout the season. Magnus is our team captain, and he's recently come into a really good form. So I'm expecting big things from him this season.
No pressure.
Victor, Matthias, and Martin are actually relatively new to the Swedish Zwifters, and I don't know them that well. Looking forward to getting to know them better during this season, but just from looking at their numbers, they're all really strong riders. And Pear, Niklas, and Niklas were with me and Magnus in the last couple seasons. Really strong riders as well, and should do well in Division B2 for sure. So, all in all, I think we have a strong team, a good mix of riding abilities, if you will. So, I'm hoping for at least a top 5 finish this season. Why not? Let's aim high. Top 3 is my prediction.
But don't you get too cocky.
So, for today's race, I have taken a screenshot of the Velo ratings just before we started. Since it is a team time trial, this competition analysis, if you will, is clearly less relevant, but I still think it gives an indication of the strength of the riders in the field. I have not covered all of the riders here, but we can see that 3 on our team, myself, Magnus, and Niklas, are placed quite high. And I know that some of our newer members on the team, such as Victor, Matthias, and Martin, are likely to improve their Velo score quite a bit in the near future. So if anything, they're probably underranked at the moment, if that is such a term. This is, of course, just a subset of the population for the season, but again, I think this is at least an indication that we will hopefully be more competitive than we were in the last 2 seasons. As mentioned, let's aim high and see if we can finish in the top 3 at the end of the season.
You serious?
Okay, time to race. As we watch the start here, I quickly wanted to discuss our tactics today. We wanted to try something a bit different, at least for us. So we started with a 20 to 30 second sprint to make sure we got our speed up right away. Now, I do believe this is a good strategy, but today didn't quite work out as planned, as one of our riders couldn't find his rhythm after the initial sprint. And I think it took him a good 20 minutes or so before he actually started doing pulls. He did have a hard race yesterday, so it is understandable, and I have certainly been there myself, where a tougher than perhaps expected start really impacts the rest of your race. So, for the first couple of kilometers, it took us a little while to get settled in, and I know I burned a few matches here trying to cover some of the gaps, etc. This was a good lesson though, and we discussed this afterwards on Discord, so I think we'll be better prepared next time. As for the rest of the race, we had set out a plan to go around 46 kilometers an hour. Based on various factors such as height, weight, and FTP, we created a schedule of what watts each rider needed to do on the front and for how long. For me, for example, I should do 30 seconds at 380 watts. Of course, in the real world, or well, at least the Zwift world, things are not always as nice and neat as that, but at least you can see what we were going for. However, having one rider not doing pulls so soon after the start of the race did impact things, but I think we adjusted pretty well on the fly. I should emphasize that the rider that struggled early worked really hard today. I was 100% certain he would drop pretty early, but he clung in there and he really came good towards the end of the race when he started doing some big pulls. So, chapeau. We have skipped forward here just a few minutes and are now approaching the Jarvis Reverse. I'm taking a pull here, and you can see my average so far is close to 320 watts, which is quite a bit for me, especially given the on-off nature of your efforts. We will speed up the footage here so you can see how we get on during the climb. In general, I think we keep our paceline okay, although there is some bunching up that happens, which is normal for hills in time trials. As we go over the top of the climb here, I did want to show you how quickly things can get a little out of hand in a team time trial. As we go down the descent, we all try to get a bit of rest, but you still have to be alert. And all of a sudden, we have a gap to the front rider who was doing his pull correctly. But since the rest of us were not quite paying attention, a gap immediately opens up and we all have to push to close, at a time when we were already tired from the climb itself. We do close the gap, but these small extra efforts, unnecessary efforts if you will, can make a big difference over the whole race, especially at the end of the race when you're really tired and your pace as a team can then drop as a result. We've now skipped forward a bit and are just over halfway through the race at this point. I know I was really starting to feel the effort, but in general we kept our paceline going pretty well, I think. And we seem to be doing okay, at least against the teams we can see in the information window on the right. We actually started first in this race, 1 minute ahead of the next team, but at this point I can see that they are over 2 minutes and 30 seconds behind us. So we've taken over 1.5 minutes on that team, and around 45 seconds or so on the team after that. So far so good. Now we just need to keep it together until the end of the race. Easier said than done, I suppose. We are now approaching the finish of the race. As always, it was getting harder and harder to have a good pace line as we are all on the limit here. I know I was, that's for sure. But we can see that my average has dropped to around 290 watts. And that's a sign that I was paying for the pretty spicy start that we had. But we all crack on and roll over the line in just over 42 minutes. Even before we had a chance to look at the results, I knew that we had done a pretty good job today. And I think after a somewhat rocky start, we really knuckled down and kept our pace going. So how did we do? Well, let's have a look at the results. In the end, I'm really happy to report that we finished in second place. Just 5 seconds after the winners, Strlght, and some 15 seconds ahead of Tugas in third. I had a quick glance at the results of the other Division B2 races, and a time of 42 minutes would have placed us in the top 3 in all of the other races I looked at. So I do think we put in a competitive time for sure. I also thought it was interesting to look at the split times between our team and the winners. We can see that we started faster, but they finished faster. Although, I have to wonder what the situation would have been if we got our start correct. But overall, I think we put in a really solid team performance, and we also managed to keep all 6 of us to the end of the race, which is always nice. Now, just a few post-race thoughts before we wrap this one up. All right, just a few post-race thoughts. First, well done to the team. I thought that was a really good effort by all 6 of us. And I always like it when you finish together. In fact, I was a second or 2 off the back, but we'll take that. I was really tired towards the end. Had really good legs for the first 25-30 minutes. I just couldn't really sustain it all the way to the end, but hung in there. And in fact, I thought our technique as a team actually got a little bit better towards the end, probably as we got a little bit tired and the speed dropped just a bit. But overall, good effort. I think as I'm recording this, I think we're in second place. There may be another team or 2 that go faster than us, I don't know. But either way, I think we had a good race. So yeah, enjoyed it. Really good workout. And then we'll go on to next week. Unfortunately, I won't be there. I'm away skiing for a week. But the rest of the Swedish Zwift and Mimir team, I'm sure will put up a good fight. Okay, hope you enjoyed. This is Sam, trying to spin to win on Zwift. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.